I've always loved using Nexus, ever since my first experience with the Galaxy Nexus. I've enjoyed that stock Android experience with no bloat, so today I'll be looking at the Nexus 5 and I'll be showing you just how well it works in 2017. The device shown in this video is owned by my friend Morgan, who's featured on the channel before, and his device is very beaten up to say the least, so try to ignore the gaping hole in the side of it. Just a standout issue, this is an LG device and there have been reports, plenty of them, about boot loops. This very phone has actually been in a dreaded boot loop, so be wary of this. The legendary phone was released in November of 2013, which makes it 3.5 years old. You can pick one of these up for £100 on eBay, but a few more quid will get you the 5X, which is heaps newer with many more features and very important fingerprint scanner, so I would personally say save up and get that one. The design of the Nexus 5 is one that I've always loved the look of. The Nexus imprint on the back with the large camera bump and the flash at the top left, it looks really uniform and really smart looking, almost like a tuxedo if you get the white version. The chin and forehead are both larger than I'd like, but they're not anywhere near the size of the iPhones or the 6Ps or even the Pixels. And the nav buttons are software, so you really only get the front camera and the call speaker and actually notification LED other than the display up front, which is a fairly poor use of space, but there you go. To the right you get a SIM card slot and the lock button. Opposite you get a volume rocker and optional gaping hole. Up top is a headphone jack, and at the bottom is a micro USB B port along with a speaker. Overall I feel the look and the design of the device has held up well, but it obviously can get dinged up pretty easily considering these are plastic phones and really aren't made of the awesome metal and glass materials that we're used to on maybe Samsung or maybe even Apple devices. The screen is a 5-inch 1080p IPS Plus panel which looks very sharp at 445 pixels per inch and has aged well, as most mid-range phones are equipped with this kind of class display today, which is pretty good. The screen doesn't get insanely bright outside, but I'm used to the Samsung's Super AMOLED displays, so I'm a bit biased there, but also the color reproduction accuracy is really good on this with an IPS Plus panel. At 5 inches, I think it would be a great sweet spot between people who like a cheap smartphone because it's easy to handle and use, and someone who wants a bigger smartphone, maybe upgrading from an iPhone 5 or something like that. Reading fine text, watching videos and using the camera, browsing social media, all of these things are great using the LG's panel. I really do like the size and pixel density. It's just a good sweet spot. Maybe you're not using it for VR or anything, but it's good either way. The camera on this bad boy isn't amazing. It's an 8 megapixel shooter with f2.4 glass. Its quality isn't great, but at least it does shoot 1080p with optical image stabilization, which is good. I'm not a huge fan of the camera, but it's good enough for a few pictures here and there. You're obviously getting less bokeh and less low light performance with this glass, but if you're out in the sun, photos should look pretty alright. I got a few in the sun over England's mini heat wave, and I think they came out alright considering this isn't new, nor is it great in terms of its specifications. The secondary camera is equally unimpressive with a 1.3 megapixel sensor with f2.4 glass. This means that selfies won't look super sharp, nor wide, nor bokeh-licious, but at least they're an option, and in my opinion that's good enough for a phone of this age. Overall, the cameras really aren't the reasons to buy this device, and overall I don't think that you should really buy this device if you're looking to buy a good camera. In fact, I'd say that you probably want to jump up to the 5X for that, but then you want to jump up to the 5X for plenty of other reasons too. The performance specs of this phone are actually much better than the camera, thankfully, and make the phone feel pretty new. It's packing a Snapdragon 800 with 2GB of memory that I think makes the phone feel pretty responsive and speedy despite its age. The 800 is a quad-core chip that is more than capable of running most games in the Play Store, and I think that the 800 still has heaps of potential with today's software and games. If you're looking for a cheap phone with great stock software and decent hardware, this is definitely the one to go for. It's comparable to something like the LG G3 or OnePlus X in terms of its performance specs, with the aforementioned two phones just putting down a little bit more power than the Nexus 5, but it's definitely there to compete. The 2GB of RAM may fall short in the coming years, but for now it's good enough. If only it had an extra 1GB of RAM, I feel like the 3 gigs would have made it a little bit more future-proof, as most software nowadays has so many background tasks that it actually uses up a lot of memory. The software was the reason that you would buy this phone, and probably is still the reason that you would buy this phone. It's a Nexus, a legend in terms of its software, and you get no bloat, but unfortunately no extra features either. It's all Google services. The reason that it's important is because it's less likely to slow down over time, like the Samsung devices that slow down crazy over time because the software is just so bloated and doesn't get updated. The look and aesthetic of stock Android is one that I really like. I've always loved the material design since it came out in Lollipop, and so I think it works really well here with Marshmallow. Of course you can add custom ROMs really easily, but I would personally find that Marshmallow is actually good and probably will be good for the next year or two on the stock software, and then you can upgrade. And you get Google Assistant, which is also pretty cool. The battery on this device is unfortunately non-removable, which isn't great of a phone of this age because they tend to be removable at this age, and so you can switch it out for a new one. But in this case, it's a 2300 milliamp hour fixed cell, which isn't huge. But back just a few years ago, the industry wasn't as good at fitting big cells in small phones, and so nowadays you can get like a 3000 milliamp hour cell in this size phone. The phone will last about 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, which is actually pretty good, and will last a whole day under decent use. The standby time is just phenomenal though, with this lasting like 5 days or something without being charged, and with these new updates too, it's actually working pretty well considering its small size. Now, the Nexus 6 had a great set of speakers, but the Nexus 5, its predecessor, not quite. The bottom firing unit is okay, but it's nothing special. It gets loud enough, but it's definitely nothing compared to the Nexus 6, and it's not very clear considering it's a bottom firing affair. You do get a headphone jack and a micro USB-B connector, but no NFC nor wireless charging, so Android Pay really isn't a thing. Neither do you get any kind of fast charging, so there aren't a hell of a lot of features like something like an S5. You don't get a fingerprint scanner nor any kind of funky features like the S5, but you do get awesome software, reliability and speediness. So it's really just a toss up whether you want features or you want reliability and speed. That's basically the conclusion though. I would recommend this thing if you don't mind the lack of the fingerprint scanner. It's a great little device and I really do love the Nexus 5, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone because the stock Android experience is what I believe to be the best Android experience, and for this kind of price you're getting a stellar phone. So that's it guys, thanks for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas. Please do like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, comment your thoughts below and talk to the community that we have going, and please do subscribe if you're new around here because it helps me out and you never miss a video like this one. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video and hopefully I've given you a little bit more info on what it's like owning a Nexus 5 in 2017, and it was really fun to give this phone another go. So thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.